Okay, so here again, several of you have been asking questions related to this part of the text, which I think is very interesting because in a lot of Christmas cards that we have that are being sent out right now, we see Mary and Joseph, and Mary is 9 months pregnant, super swollen belly, riding on a donkey. And all of that is not necessarily in the text. All we have here in Luke is while they were there. And we don't know how long they had been in Bethlehem. So they've been in Bethlehem, and sometime after, while they were there, it is now time for Mary to give birth. And so she gives birth to her firstborn son, wrapped him in swaddling clothes, laid him in a manger. So we have this kind of animal reference here, because there was no place for them. And then this is another one of those things that it's a translation. And we talk about this a lot at IBC and in all of the classes. We talk about what we do when we're translating scripture and we're going from an original ancient language into French, German, or English, right? We have to choose that translation. Sometimes there's not an exact word for word match. But it has become traditional to translate this as in the inn. The Greek word is kataluma, and kataluma actually has more of a reference of a guest room. And so all of this, if we go to the cultural setting at the time, we know in these small villages that hospitality was of utmost concern, that sharing hospitality was something that was very valued. The rabbis talk about Abraham as the ultimate host. He's the one who invited the 3 visitors into his house and then cooked an elaborate meal, and how important it was to have that embedded in the cultural landscape of these villages. So these villages would not have had inns that we talk about. Inns are something that the Romans brought in. We have inns that are located along big, important Roman roads. We have a different word that is used for inn. Luke actually uses it when he tells the story of the Good Samaritan taking this man who's been hurt, and he takes him to an inn in Jericho and pays the fees for this man. So it's an inn as we tend to think of an inn, paying for hospitality. That is not what Luke is referring to here. In Luke chapter 2, and then later at the end of Luke, he's also going to use the word kataluma, and the kataluma in that case is going to be the guest room of someone within the city walls of Jerusalem, where Jesus and the disciples are going to go and share their Last Supper together. So kataluma has more of the connotation of a portion of the house that is set aside where that family can offer hospitality to others. So if that's the case, then what is the scene that Luke is painting for us? It's not one of Joseph and Mary being refused any kind of hospitality. It's just saying when they get to Bethlehem, and assuming that several of Joseph's relatives are also going to Bethlehem, that for whatever reason, the place where they're staying, which probably was one of his relatives' house, is swollen with people who are coming and visiting. And so the kataluma, this guest room, there's no room in the guest room for Mary. And so what does Mary do? She is having birth pangs and she needs to go somewhere. And so she is going to go where the manger is going to be found, which is going to be the room in the house where animals could be held. So in the area of Bethlehem, in the Judean hills in general, we have several of these older homes that were built either on a cave or in front of a cave. And so a cave, like the natural bend and splitting of the limestone, creating this open spot, and then building the house out in front of it, and then building up or just building on top. And that becomes the place where during the rainy season, if you, being a good Bethlehem resident, have diversified your income and you have land so that you're growing the wheat that you need to bake bread, you also probably are going to at least have a handful of sheep that you are also going to have. And in the rainy season, when it gets really cold at night and the sheep have been out in the rain, you don't want to stay outside, because if the wool on your sheep gets drenched with rain or with water, and then you're out in the coldness, then you're just keeping your animal, or you're opening the door for those animals to experience all kinds of sickness. So we are then going to, those residents in Bethlehem, move the animals into the cave, and that is where they're going to keep the animals in the winter time or in the rainy season. So in this picture we have, which is taken from the late 1800s, we still see some of the homes in the Bethlehem area that are still functioning in a similar way, where there's a cave or there's some sort of entrance level down below where the sheep would be kept. And then the main part of the house structure is going to be up on top. So that is an important, just even kind of understanding the shape of the homes and what is going on just means that Luke is telling us that the guest room might have been too full of people, but the sheep weren't down in the room where the sheep are normally kept. And so Mary goes there, and that is where she's going to give birth, presumably with several of the midwives who are in the Bethlehem area. There's no one that would ostracize a woman giving birth at this particular time. So there would have been a lot of people around, and Mary is just finding the more appropriate place for her to go and give birth with all of these midwives who are around.
What Bible do you read? And how do you know it's the right one?
There's only one version of the Bible, right?
It might surprise you to learn that Bible translations led to many versions of Holy Scripture. Long ago, translators interpreted the Hebrew Bible, ensuring it would be enjoyed in many languages. But when they encountered Hebrew words they didn't understand, translators relied on their individual cultural context and used different words with different meanings unrelated to the original ones. This led to Bible versions that lacked the full, beautiful, original explanations becoming part of our history. That's why when you join our online classes, you'll get back to the source of the original Hebrew Bible to uncover hidden meanings.
Get back to the source. Join our online course today, where the treasures of the authentic Bible await you.
Click on the link and register to start your biblical experience.